Yeah, that's,
Oh,
What are you looking for?
we have a plan for Harold Street.
Sorry, I did not print that out, but I'll put it up on the screen.
Okay.
It's a simple RDA.
Which was this?
Okay. Yeah, we were busy anyway at 6:30.
Get one of them.
oops. Peter seems to be in pain. Peter's in pain.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He can sit.
Yeah. Sure. What do you want money for? You selling them?
Starting just a second.
Right. Forget it then.
Christmas is coming.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm on a fixed income. too.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started here. Good evening. It's now 7 o'clock on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. This meeting for the Chelmsford Conservation Commission is being called to order. My name is Carl Bischoff. I'm the chair of the commission. We will be following the published and posted agenda. And there was an amended agenda. This meeting is both in person and through Zoom, and in the case of Zoom not working properly, we will continue the meeting in person. This meeting is being broadcast and recorded by the Chelmsford Telemedia and will be available on their website and YouTube. And just to look around, we do have a quorum. We have 6 members here, so we're good to go. The commission is chartered to protect our natural resources, most specifically the wetlands, and to manage land held in conservation. So we will start the evening with our open session, citizen concerns. Is there anyone here that wants to talk about anything that's not on our list, that wants to say something? Changing the coat, not getting up, okay. So the next item on here is, we want to talk about the Willis Drive Conservation Commission parcels. David, do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Sure, unless Darlene, you'd like to.
Well, I don't know if you were going to present the spreadsheet that I sent you.
I can certainly bring that up. There has been some, since the last meeting where this was discussed, there has been some, I think, progress. So I can certainly update the commission on that.
Do you want me to explain the spreadsheet?
Sure.
Can you, you need to come up here and give your name up to that podium over there. Yeah, sorry.
My name is Darlene Farrell. I live on 6th Ave on the lake, and I've been fighting for a very long time to protect the conservation property at the bottom of the hill, where people have parked their swimming docks and boats and you name it. They mark it private property and all of that. So recently there's a dock and a boat, and they're marking it keep off, but it's on conservation. So that's kind of the background. I know there's probably more to it, but it prompted me to do some research on what property was conservation, and I came up with 6 properties. So if you can move to the left on the spreadsheet.
You need to speak into the mic, hon.
David,
I'm
can you
sorry.
move to the left on the spreadsheet? Yeah.
Sure.
I have bad vision, so I'm going to stand here.
So, so
you
your
move to the
left, Darlene?
To the left here?
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
you can just do your left clicker, your arrow on your keyboard.
Yep. Hold on a second.
Just. No,
Why is that not-
on
why
the
not?
keyboard,
Just
the
click
arrows.
on
Oh,
row
okay,
8. I
yeah.
mean,
There you go.
row
Keep
8.
going. There you go. There you go.
So anyways, if you click on the Willis Drive link, it'll bring you to the property description. I'm not sure what you actually call that document. If you want to just do one so you can see what we're talking about.
Sure. Actually, why don't I do one that some more information already?
So this is some form of document that the town has on the piece of property. So I provided that information for each of the properties. So if you go back to the spreadsheet, and you go to the right, it gives more information on the property. And then on the bottom here is pictures of each of the conservation properties. In many of those properties, people have marked as private property. And they have their cars parked, and they have picnic tables, and other people have, like this piece here, if you go further down the image, people don't even use their driveway anymore, they just park on the lake. So I would like to propose that the town protect these conservation properties and possibly mow down the grass so that it looks pretty like conservation land.
So this is very helpful, Darlene. Thank you. So I had actually identified 4 parcels prior to hearing from Darlene. And I had sent a request for proposal to town council, or I'm sorry, the surveyor that the town has been using to map the boundaries of the parcels. And the 4 parcels that I incorporated in that request were this one, 18, 41, 25, 18, 41, and 23, which is, I think the commission is very familiar with this one already. The other one, 18, 41, 3, and 18, 41, 21. Now, for 18, 41, 23, and 18, 41, 25, there's an actual deed. The deed reference in the assessor's database is an actual deed directly to the Conservation Commission. Turns out that another one, I think it's 184128, was also conveyed in the same deed, yes, which I did not realize until I got Darlene's spreadsheet. So, but anyway, I had a phone conversation with the surveyor about the ones for which they actually have the deeds. The other 2 that I looked into are actually just final judgments by the land court, or the tax title court, where the town treasurer filed for the town to take possession of them for non-payment of real estate taxes. So, that was not much to work with. I mean, we don't even know actually that for sure that they were ever even turned over to the Conservation Commission. There would have had to be a town meeting vote to do that, and the records for that may be there, but that could take a little bit of digging to find those. So the way I left it with the surveyor was that he would just focus on the 2 that are in the deed. I think now that I know there's this 3rd parcel that's also in the deed, I'll ask him to include this one in the proposal as well. So that's what I'm waiting for.
Are the ones at the end of 6th in the deed? Those are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those lots.
The
there.
one with that might have the boat dock on it.
Okay, that's a deeded.
Yeah.
property?
Yeah, that's this one. This one, there is an actual deed.
Okay.
Rather than just a final
Okay, good.
judgment from tax title court.
So 3 of the 6 parcels Darlene's brought to our attention, 3 of them are clearly under Conservation Commission,
Yes.
and the other 3
Yes.
is in this gray area you described.
Right, and 2 of them, you're right, two of them I know definitely are. I haven't looked at, what the assessor has for a deed reference for the 6th one, but I will do that. So I am waiting for a proposal from the surveyor. As I say, I will contact him and ask him to add the third parcel that's in the deed to it as well. And then it's a matter of him going back and doing the research, best he can to delineate the boundaries, well, to determine the boundaries and then delineate them out in the field. So,
Which three would be surveyed?
so that would be this one, 1841-23, 1841-25, and 1841-28.
About the 1841-3.
Well, that one, as I say, I did not. The way I left it was with him was that we would first go back and ascertain whether, or try to ascertain whether it was this parcel is actually belongs to the Conservation Commission. I mean, it belongs to the town in any case. The other thing too is cost. I want to get, I've spoken to the town manager about this as well. Try and get some idea of how much these ones are going to cost, because these might be the cheapest. So,
But the one that's 1841-3, if it's a town property, shouldn't the people have to remove all the debris that they put out there and mark as private property?
well, I think that would be the case for any of them where that's happening. Once we've established the boundaries and established, the ownership, I in my opinion, and I'm going to recommend this to the town manager, is that title exams need to be done, because even if we know where the boundaries are, you never know, and a butter could say, well, I own that property, the town doesn't have a clear title to it. So that's a potential issue as well. Now, hopefully where we have an actual deed for 3 parcels to the Conservation Commission, hopefully that's less of an issue, but the grantors in that case may not have had clear title,
I also know there's 2 different types of surveys from experience of my property. Do you know what kind of surveys they would be doing?
No, I don't for sure, but I think it's going to be whatever survey can best, delineate the boundaries. And we'll see what he says what the surveyor says in the proposal.
So one of our concerns is that where that boat ramp is right where the town property meets up with a non-town property. And the question is that boat ramp on our property or on the abutting property? And standing there, I've stood there, and I don't know exactly where that is. It's very, very close. So that's why we need to have that particular one, but if there's others as well, we need to address those as well.
But do they have to own that property to be able to put something on the water?
Well, that could be a different issue if they put it on the water without getting the right process for doing that, and that's something that we've had some discussion about as well.
Okay.
But we're trying to do this one thing at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate your help.
Yep.
But I think the goal here is to identify who owns what.
Yep.
And then for town property, have some sort of permanent marker,
Yes.
so you don't have to deal with this forever.
And
Right.
It's been like
signage.
7 years.
Right,
And signage, yeah.
right. So that is the goal, right? To make it
Yep.
clear.
Thank you very
And
much.
in fact, we have property all around Freeman Lake. It's not just the Willis Road. We have parcels
Well
on.
aware.
Yeah, on both sides, and parcels all over town, so there's some
Yeah,
other places we should be doing the same thing.
And if I could state the obvious, you just said it. There are other parcels around the lake, and we're probably going to have this process go on for a while as more and more parcels,
Yeah.
It would be
get
nice, though,
attention.
if at the end, you could, mow
Yep.
it all down, and not all the time, but just to beautify the lake.
Right.
I know
Oh,
I asked the town before to clean up the lake where the veteran section is, and they did a beautiful job and put rocks. And then I requested in front of the Legion, which they did clean up, so I'm grateful for all that you're
Okay.
doing.
Good. Darlene, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sure, but you need to come up to the microphone, yeah. It is still open session.
John Kelly, 38 Dunshire Drive. Even though I don't live right on the pond, I spend a lot of time there. By the spillway, there's a beach there and a boat launch. It's designated as boat launch. Why is that thing, who puts a chain across that and locks it?
That's the fire department. The fire department has said that only emergency access is allowed.
So there's no longer canoe access there or anything like that? Or?
Not through the chained section. That if someone can get a canoe or kayak in on either side, yeah, they can. But
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Next up is, we have Mr. Piper talking about the down trees at the Crooked Spring Reservation. Good evening, could you give us your name and address?
Yep. First off, thanks for having me this evening. Greg Piper, Precinct 4, 1 Moccasin Lane. So I abut the Crooked Spring Reservation there, off Graniteville Road. Be 30 years that I've lived there. So over the years, I've participated, with the town as a steward. I don't know that that program still exists or not, but as an abutter, one of the things that I've done in the past is, kept trails clear. So apparently, if you can see with these pictures here, all those downed trees, there were some kids that came through there. It seemed like a period of time, and they were just pushing them over. I don't have a picture of it, but the original trail, there's a trail that drops down into the fire road. It was all covered, so I cleared it. And in doing so, I created a pile. Looking at that, and this runs all along that ridge line. So the ridge line will run along Moccasin and then further on down to the fire road. It's all through there. So a couple things. Number one, it looks bad. Number two, probably a fire hazard, especially coming up that hill. And really the question here is, can we get a crew in there to clean it up? And, one approach that I've had a discussion with, and Phil Stanway and Ken Dews, is getting a chipper in there. And they've actually offered to do that. I think Ken's he's got access to private equipment. So really the question is, can we get in there with a crew? I'd be part of that crew to get that cleaned up and get it chipped and basically run that whole ridge line and get it cleaned up. I think the chipping would just go back onto the ground. I don't know that we would need to haul that away or not. But so that's really the question, what the process is, if there's a process, if there's concerns with liability. I think we got the able bodies here. The question is, process.
Okay, I've been there many, many times, and I
Yeah.
know exactly the spot that
Okay.
you're talking. It's a very sandy area. This
It is.
formerly the Route 3 construction in
Right.
the 50s or 60s or something like that.
Yeah, I
and
think
it
you know
was
the
a
you know the
sand-
history, right? Yeah.
More or less, yeah. So, and interestingly, that area, I think it was sand, all sand, and then the trees all grew up at the same time, which is why they're all dying at the same time. And there's no vegetation other than the trees
Just
to
those
speak
pines.
of.
There's a handful of firs, but I'd be surprised if they are going to last. Yeah, I think the way the history I heard was that those were all saplings that were planted in there to retain that hill, and they were to be.
sense.
At one point, they were going to be thinned out. Well, I think by
They
by-
happen.
it's happening.
Yeah.
So I think it would be good if we could clean that up. I think we've got a team kind of poised to do that. I talked to a few folks about that. Ken and Phil are ready to go, and so really it's a matter of the process. No, it's not. Maybe you can educate me. Are the stewards still active? I mean, I
Yeah,
was a steward at one time.
Phil's still active
Yeah.
as the costs in town.
Yeah, Koch, yeah. Mhm.
Let me open up to the commission for questions. I have a couple of comments and questions, but let me ask you guys what your thoughts are. Peter?
Well, hi, thanks for coming in.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm going to start by saying I actually don't have an opinion. But I did want to say that this commission's mandate is spelled out in the town bylaws.
Yeah,
And those mandates, there's 8 things we're supposed to pay attention to, and one is wildlife.
yep,
Another is forestry stuff. So my first question is, what's the right thing to do for those values that this commission is supposed to be protecting? Let's just use wildlife as an example. And we're up against my knowledge, I don't know the answer to my question, but in a natural forest, you need dead trees on the forest floor to support what we're supposed to protect, wildlife. And it's not just the wildlife we see, but it's all the little bugs and critters
sure,
that,
yeah.
you know, you can study up on this. So my only view is I don't know what the right solution is, but that's one point. The second I wanted to make is I've been on this commission 2 years, and I don't think the collective we have an answer to the following question. Is our conservation land to be managed like a park? Or like the woods I saw recently in Europe, where they do clean all the stuff out of the forest? Or are we supposed to be managing our properties in a more natural way, which means some amount of dead stuff stays on the ground? Now, this is a little bit unusual, you know, because it all happened at once.
Right.
And it probably is good in terms of the thinning and so forth. But I'll just leave a final thought. This stuff falling on the ground and rotting is what supports the next generation of vegetation. Native shrubs and non-native shrubs and stuff growing on the forest floor. And that might be one reason why there's not a lot of vegetation, plus perhaps the deer eat everything. So anyway, my only comment is this is an ecological question unless the town just decides it's going to look like a park and we're going to rake everything out. I don't have the answer to those
Yeah.
questions.
yeah, yeah, fair. Fair commentary, yeah. Definitely.
Chris, you have a thought?
Yeah, I mean, my initial, kind of off-the-cuff reaction and, is that I'm kind of okay with this, particularly with the really serious fire threats that we have right now to public safety. So my off-the-cuff reaction is, yeah, I'm good with it.
Mark, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Peter and I agree with Chris. There has to be, we just can't go in here and clean everything out.
Right,
There has to be something
it's a
left there.
balance, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know, I don't have the knowledge to know how much is too much and what should be left there.
I think this is a little different because these were pushed over, right?
Yeah, these were not,
Then-
none of that's natural, that's all pushed over, and, again, I've been through thicket in Maine, and, you can break legs walking through thicket, right? Not that people are walking through the thicket here, right? So, yeah, naturally, that'll accumulate like that, and it's impassable sometimes. This here, I think, there's a lot of people that go through there. It's kind of an eyesore. I don't think we have to do a clean sweep. I think that what we can do is get the big stuff out. We can get that chipped up. We can leave some of the smaller stuff behind. That's not a big deal. It's a lot of work. In the forefront, there is a pile that got put up because of the logs that were pushed across the trail originally. You couldn't pass the trail. I wished I caught the kids, honestly. And being in a butter there is a lot of wildlife there. We've got barred owls there, we've got a number of hawks that nest there, and we have all kinds of wildlife that comes through there. The herd of deer that we all enjoy in town, they pass through there. So I think that it would be done with a lot of care. I think that we would certainly consider, hey, let's be careful of the clean sweep and let's leave the natural stuff where it is. I agree with you on that. That's important.
Well, I think you raised the important question, how much? Because, you're talking about the value of owls and whatnot. Well, what
Sure.
do they eat? Well, they eat little critters.
Yeah.
Where do the critters grow and hide and whatnot in the forest floor?
Mice,
So if you're
rabbits
running
in my
equipment
yard.
but you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
they'll
yeah.
take some mice out of our houses
Right,
for us.
right.
But you know what I'm saying? It's sort of a trade-off about what the town wants this thing to look like.
Yeah.
That's all. Do you value the barn owls, or do you value, it looking pretty like a park?
Okay.
Well, I think I agree with you, but I think here with the trees being pushed down, a lot of them being pushed down, I wouldn't want to take them all out, but maybe the ones that are a hazard, there's a lot of them hanging up on other trees
Yeah, there's a lot of
and things
hangers
like that.
there, and then
Something like
across over
that.
there.
What would be a plan? Would you cut these trees in sections and drag them down to a?
Yeah,
like,
so,
chip 'em, or-
so on the left-hand side, there's an access road, right? It's a dirt access road.
Right.
So I think the idea is to, I think Kenny was gonna use his tractor to bring in his chipper. We'd bring that up to the edge of that hill there. It's a sand hill that comes down, that's the trail.
On the downside.
On the downside, I would drag those to the edge of that trail, and then we would chip back into the woods on the bed. And we'd work our way down as far as we thought we would need to work down.
And would you
Nope.
drag them with
No,
the
that's fine.
tractor?
No, I would pull them out by hand. You can pull those out by hand. I'd probably cut them in half and pull them
Got
out
it.
by hand, and then I'd lay them along the edge, and we'd put them through the chipper. And, I don't think we'd want to have a giant pile. I think we want to distribute it so it looks natural and is even. And
Right.
the pine needles have come down already, but I'll tell you what, you've seen these forests when the fall leaves and the fall pine needles come down, just covers everything. So.
What's the liability for, I mean, a chipper can do a lot of damage to someone if they're not doing it every day, they're not used to working on a machine like that. And you
I
have
check-
volunteers.
Yeah, I checked with Phil, and he said that this is Kenny's equipment. He has access to the equipment, so it's his line of work, according to Phil. So he's familiar with the equipment.
But
I'm
if you can
I'm
have
not
other
familiar.
people throwing the logs in there and somebody
Yep.
gets caught on a branch and it sucks you in.
Yeah.
Is this something we want to be doing on one of our sites, running a chipper?
Yes.
I guess, it might be a little difference if say, volunteers cut them up, pull them down to a spot, and then you hire someone to chip them that's got their insurance and everything in line. I don't know I'm just bringing something up.
That's a good point. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to check with Ken. I've been going through Phil, so I'd have to check with Ken to
Well,
see what he's got for equipment. And
Well, it sounds like this question has not come up, and we kind of need the answer to this. What's the
Yeah.
town liability
right,
for
There's
the public?
I don't know specifically about a chipper, but in general, volunteers working on town property are covered across the board, but they're covered when you're doing something reasonable.
Right.
And
Yeah.
a
Right.
chipper might be like, that's not reasonable.
Right.
That could be, beyond that.
Well,
So
Maybe you
I
hire
think we
somebody
need
to
get
chip
that,
them
but
that does it.
let's hold on that for a minute. Anything else?
Nope.
Bill, John?
I think a lot of this is a safety issue.
yeah.
These things are called widowmakers, okay? Little kids, does a tree make noise when it falls in the forest?
Lands on
Yes.
something.
Not a willow tree.
There's a
Not a
squirrel.
willow tree. They land softly.
Right.
Willow trees don't really grow in the forest. So, that's a safety issue. Get the stuff knocked down, disperse it, chip it up. The critters are gonna come back no matter if it's chipped or if it's a log. Okay? They're gonna come back. The liability part, like you say, it's covered under the town. If the guy owns the chipper, let him be the one who does the chipping. With this stuff hanging like this, there's a name for it. It's a widowmaker.
Yeah.
And
There's,
especially if you're a little kid.
Most of that's in the woods, though, that's not near the trail.
Yeah, if
Well,
little, if
the kids
little
go
kids
through
were in
there.
there playing.
They're in there.
And somebody
They're in
else
there.
pushes
Yeah.
that, and it falls on them,
Okay.
I'd say get the stuff knocked down and get
So
it at least to the floor.
I think that I'm not comfortable with the chipper at the moment unless we need to get that confirmed with the town.
okay, so why don't I take that as an action? Well, okay, so I'll let you, go ahead. and
I was
continue.
gonna say, David, maybe you can talk to Paul? Does that make sense?
I can, but, another way around that would be to ask DPW to do
Yeah,
it.
well, that's where I was gonna go is, I think it makes sense that the DPW's been doing a lot of this kind of work
They
with
have.
us on other sites. They've been at Coolest quite a bit, the last year and even the last few weeks. We can ask them to come over to that site. I don't know if they have a chipper, but they can certainly do an awful lot of work, with a crew and, get a lot done in a fairly short amount of time. And we're at the end of their normal season and heading into winter, so this kind of a project fits into their somewhat fit, not to speak for them,
But even before that, Carl, the last email I got on this was that they're too dry to chip.
Oh, from the town?
No, from Phil.
Oh, he did?
He
Okay,
did.
he said they're
he
too
said,
dry?
he
Okay,
said,
it's
he said they're too dry to chip, so
And that's-
the chipping's off.
Oh,
that's
was that
what-
recent?
Yeah, that was, I can bring up
Yeah,
that email.
that's actually, I have done chipping, and if it's green, it's still a lot of work, but it can chip. The more dry you get, it much, much harder. And
So-
these are, I've been there, these are all dead.
Oh, yeah,
dead,
they're
dead.
all dead pine. It's
So
all dead.
right here, he's saying removing from site is the only safe option.
Oh, that's as of today?
Yeah.
Okay, huh. Oh, I didn't,
Yeah, but moving them from site is not best environmental practice.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind as we work through a decision here.
Yeah, I think, so here's a suggestion. Go in and carefully knock down everything you can knock down.
okay.
Maybe, the thing I worry about is if you stack everything up close in some area then you end up like, that's your big fuel pile.
That's the fuel pile, and it's eyesore, and it's, it's less
Yeah.
natural looking, for sure.
Because to Peter's point, if we stack it all up and pull it out, that's, our one of our things for conservation sites is don't remove any material from the site.
Yeah,
We can waive that, and maybe that's the right thing to do here for, a quarter of it or a half of it, just because there's so much in a dangerous spot.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I put a finer point on that, though? The reason I'm presenting that idea of leaving it in place is it's a sand pit that was stripped of all the stuff you need to grow the next generation of trees. And so you want that natural replenishment over time. I mean,
yeah. So maybe the thing to do then is to, get the eyesores down, the ones that are the hangers down.
Yeah.
Get them maybe diced up and drag them into locations where they'll just sit, and not make an eyesore of a pile, but just kind of distribute it a little bit.
Yeah.
That would be
You
the
don't-
thing to
you
do.
don't wanna
Otherwise,
just-
there's an access road. I mean, they
Yep.
would come in there and it'd be an
you don't-
access road.
Yeah,
excuse me, you don't want to just leave them in place?
Well, the ones that are leaning up, you definitely need to knock down.
Yeah, we could do.
Well, yeah, no, I understand that. But once you knock them down or they're on the floor, to John's point, that's not a safety hazard.
Let's start with that.
Yeah, why don't we do
Let's
that?
start with
I'll shoot David some pictures when that part of the job is done.
Okay.
And, yeah, we'll just distribute that a little bit more then as opposed to, create the piles.
Well, in this email from Phil, it says the plan is to haul it out on Friday,
I
so,
don't know.
No, we're
okay,
not-
We didn't talk about that.
okay.
We're not
so-
authorizing removal.
Right, okay,
Okay.
so I can let Phil know that.
Yeah.
That what the commission authorizes to take down the widowmakers
Yep.
and cut them up,
Yep.
or
And
just,
and leave
Make it
them
safe.
where they are.
Yeah, we'll just make
Okay.
it safe.
Make it safe.
Make
Okay.
it safe first.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that'll be the order of business, is to make it safe.
Yep. I think that's a good start. I mean, we're just hitting this tonight for the first time, so.
Yeah, no, I get it,
We-
yeah.
we gotta
And this is just one
understand.
piece of property in all of town, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, you mentioned fire safety. Ask
Yeah.
our fire safety chief their opinion.
It's not
Hey,
that.
that's a good idea.
Turn the TV on. It's on TV every
It's-
night.
I know the answer.
There's
They're
more
gonna say, get
forest
rid of
fires
it.
in New England.
They're gonna say, pull it out.
Well, no, actually not. When I
No.
talked to them a few months ago about this, not this
Yeah.
project,
Yeah.
but in general.
Well, yeah, I think we should all pray for rain, too.
I know,
'Cause
yeah.
I think that's a good start, though.
Yeah.
Cut them out of so they're not leaning in the trees, lay them on the
Yeah,
ground.
let me do
Get
that.
it safe.
Yeah.
I'll shoot you, David, good to meet you. I'll shoot you some pictures
Okay,
when
great.
that's done. I'll have a chat with Phil.
Yep.
I was at it all day at work, so I didn't pick up this mail. I should have taken a
So
look.
we're not authorizing anything being taken out of it.
Just knock it
right?
down.
Just knock
Yeah.
it down.
All right,
Yeah, there's plenty there.
all right, appreciate the,
Thank you for coming in.
yeah, appreciate
I
the
really
time this
appreciate
evening.
you keeping an eye on the site, too.
Oh, yeah,
That's-
hey,
that's-
I mean,
that's
it's
great.
it's across the street, it's great.
And
Thank you.
enjoy those owls.
They're great.
Thank you. All right. Sure, we're still in open session.
Hi, Sarita Fernandez, Dunshire Drive, but I noticed what he was talking about. A place to look is Lexington and Concord, the Minuteman National Park. They do a lot of tree moving around there, where they actually take them and they take the fallen logs and then they line like the trails with them, or they leave and they move. And it's a lot of different options because it allows for decomposition, allows for things to grow in them, animals to be in there, and just disperse them out. But, you know, just a thing to see, like if you want to see other options.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good
Okay.
idea.
All right, thank
Good
you
night,
for your
good night,
time
Greg.
this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next on our agenda, let's keep moving here. We have a report from our friendly liaison from the planning board. Hello, Chris.
Hello. So tomorrow's meeting, we've got start at 6:30 with a work session to start reviewing required changes to the floodplain bylaw and map coming from FEMA. So we'll start reviewing that. For new hearings, we have a change of use at Drumhill Plaza. And then for continued hearings, we have Palet Drive, 10 Independence Drive with an adult daycare, and then 313 Littleton Road, Sayod Apartments. That's pretty much the agenda for tomorrow. If any of you are interested in the floodplain information, I'm assuming you are, we'll be starting that at 6:30 to 7. I don't know how far we're going to get.
Okay.
Good. Hi, a quick question. I apologize, I've been traveling. On Palet, in the planning board discussions, was there any talk about whether or not the actual cul-de-sac could be deeded somehow to the owners and be used for parking more formally?
That did
Did that
not
ever
come up
come
in
up?
the meetings, but we had the same question you guys did the last meeting about why this was coming up and
Right.
what could potentially be done. And there was a DPW letter attached to our agenda for tomorrow's meeting that has some background information from DPW.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Gotta go to the planning board to find out.
All right, so next, next up, regulatory hearing, we
We have
have
to go to the
a,
planning board to find out why this is being done?
Do we have that letter from the
I
DPW?
don't know, we'll,
How's that
Didn't we
work?
ask
we'll get there in the, we have that on our agenda, so we'll get there. So next is the RDA for, we have a request for determination of applicability for Adam and Amy Kleindienst at 7 Harold Street, and Susan MacArthur is representing the applicant, and we need to read the notice.
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in Room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices on Tuesday, November 12, 2024, at 7 p.m. to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by property owners Adam and Amy Kleindienst for proposed work within 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 7 Harold Street, further identified as Assessors Map 95, Block 368, Lot 5. The project entails installation of an above-ground pool and relocation of an existing shed. Chair?
Thank you. Do we have Susan on?
You're there, Susan, aren't you? Yes.
I'm here. Yeah.
Hello, Susan.
May I share my screen?
Yes.
Great. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Again, I'm Susan MacArthur from MacArthur Environmental Consulting. I believe also in attendance are the Kleindienst, that is Adam and Amy.
Hand was waved.
Oh, okay. So the 0.39 acre lot contains a single-family home, a paved driveway, 2 sheds. There's one located over here and one kind of at the end of the driveway. Forested uplands and forested wetlands, kind of a marshy area in the back here. And the boundary of the wetland was delineated in October of this year. The wetland consists of, there's some cattail out here, sedge, goldenrod, slippery elm, red maple. So the proposed project entails installing an above-ground swimming pool, kind of in the location of where the shed is. So the shed's going to have to be moved. Adjoining this above-ground pool is going to be a deck, like a raised deck, and ordinarily this work would be considered an exempt activity under both the local bylaw as well as the State Wetlands Protection Act for work in buffer zone, both the moving of the shed and the pool, the swimming pool and the deck. However, that's only if it was outside of 50 feet, and the proposed deck off of the pool is going to be slightly within the 50-foot buffer offset from the wetland line. And this does slightly slope down gradient, so we are proposing an erosion control barrier right there. So the shed that is here now, they're going to move it across and put it over. I kind of put a white rectangle here. Put it over on this side. It is going to be very close to. I mean, I show it outside of. It's going to be pretty close to the 25-foot buffer. So, you know, I don't know if anybody has issues with that, but the shed already exists, just moving from one side to the other. And yeah, that's it. If anybody has any questions.
All right, David, do you want to give a short summary of I think you've been out to the
Yes,
site?
yes. So as Susan mentioned, that the pool and the deck is almost exempt. I mean, just a little bit of the deck encroaches into the 50-foot buffer zone, you know, and there will be a little bit of digging to make the ground level, but there is erosion control that's being installed. So I think actually the main component of concern here is the relocation of the shed. That's actually going to be rather closer to the wetlands, although it will be put on existing lawn. There's not going to be any trees or really much vegetation at all that will need to come down for that. Plus, there's not going to be any excavation. I guess it's going to be on cinder blocks or you know wood planks or whatever. I think the two main concerns there, and one really isn't that serious, is the runoff from the roof of the shed. If there could be some crushed stone that would be placed down first that the shed could sit on, that then would extend farther out than the drip line of the roof. I think that can certainly handle it. And then I think just the other concern is what's being stored in the shed. So I think there should be a condition that, you know, no hazardous or toxic chemicals should be stored in the shed. Now, you know, a lawnmower with a little gas tank, you know, I don't know, maybe that would be okay.
Okay, all right. John, you want to start?
I don't have any problem with this. How big's the shed?
10 by 12. It's small.
If they make a stone pad and set it on cinder blocks, I think that's gonna be fine for the runoff. You know what I mean? It's existing lawn, as you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a problem with this.
Okay. Bill?
I'm fine with this.
Mark?
I just, I have a little concern about when you're flushing the pool. Is it gonna be a salt pool or a freshwater pool?
It was said freshwater.
Oh, it was, okay. Just make sure to discharge out towards Birch Street, I guess, if you can do it that way. And I know you can't blow it on the hot top, but I don't want to see a lot of it washed back into the wetland
That's a
area.
good point.
I mean, chances are they're not going to drain it. I don't know that you have to drain it every season.
Just lower it, I think.
You have to get it below.
I think you just have to lower it a bit.
Well, there's some standard information that the commission hands out for pools.
Yeah.
Okay.
That deals with that.
What is the grade difference from one end of the pool to the other? Because I know you got to get a level. You said there is some grade to the property. Is it, you're going to cut into the hill a foot? I just want to make
There
sure
might,
that,
probably not a foot, but there might be a slight leveling that will be needed just to get it. I mean, it could be a foot, but I kind of doubt it. It's not that sloped, so.
and that green line represents,
Just the erosion control barrier.
okay, that's fine. I'm good.
Okay, Chris?
I'm good.
Peter?
I'm good.
All right, I'm good. I think as long as we have agreement that the shed's gonna be sitting on some kind of cinder blocks, it's not, there's no real disturbance from that.
In stone
And,
out to the
yeah, some
drip
stone
line.
on the drip line. Other than that, I'm.
And no storage of, like, cans of,
No storage, yeah, no
Chemicals.
storage of hazardous chemicals in the shed. Is that reasonable?
Sounds reasonable.
We're getting nods, yes.
Maybe an
Okay.
Adam?
Okay. All right, I'll take a motion to approve this.
close the hearing first.
Yes, public hearing, yes. So are there any neighbors or any abutters or anybody that wants to speak to this as a public hearing? It's open to the public. Nobody's getting up, okay.
I move, Mr. Chairman, that we close the public hearing.
Motion from Chris to close the public hearing, second from John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion, the hearing is closed.
I make a motion that we approve this project with a -3 determination. We need a special condition that there be no hazardous or toxic materials stored in the shed. Is there anything else we need?
The stone pad.
And we'll have
up
a
to the
stone pad
Drip line.
on the drip
Yeah,
line.
Little erosion
the
control.
drip line, that's all.
Yeah,
Otherwise, just standard conditions.
and then the standard conditions.
Erosion.
And then the erosion control, I think, is on the plan, but we want to make sure we
Which is a
have that.
standard condition.
And share the pool, Conservation Commission
Yeah.
pool
The
guidelines.
standard, yeah, the standard Conservation
That's
Commission
David's
guest-
condition.
Yeah, standard guest conditions, yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second, okay, motion from Chris, second from Bill. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, motion passes. You're good to go, Susan. You're
Great,
good to go,
thank you very
applicant. Yep, thanks very much. We're closed on that one. Good.
Is Adam here?
Adam is here in the back, yep.
Okay, I'll let you know when the paperwork's ready to pick up, Adam. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you, Susan.
The next one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next up, we have notice of intent, Chelmsford Water District, multiple addresses. This is a continuation from October 22nd, and we are,
Just want you
make a note, Mr. Gibbs is recusing himself from this discussion.
too far.
And we are joined by Mr. Sadowski.
Sure. Brian Sadowski, project engineer, AECom. I'm joined with Jillian Flanagan, environmental scientist. We are here speaking on behalf of Chelmsford Water District. Last time we talked about our notice of intent for the transmission main, water main improvement portion of the project as part of the Chelmsford Water District grand strategy for removal of PFAS from drinking water. So I believe last time we were keeping it open for comments, and I think that's where we are now.
So, yes, that is
Good,
correct. I wanted to ask the DPW for any, comments or concerns they had, and whether they had a request for any special conditions. I did not hear from them, so I guess the answer is no. They are not particularly concerned. I did just have one more question for you, though. So does this project require a SWIP, under NIPD's? A construction general permit, do you know? Okay, and, it may require a land disturbance permit from DPW as well, which is kind of related.
I'm not positive on
Okay.
that either.
But that kind of relates to the next thing I'm going to say is, I think this project can be approved with standard conditions. The only special condition I would put in there, and I will verify with DPW that they're agreeable to it, but I don't see why they wouldn't be, just have a pre-construction meeting with them.
Absolutely.
And then we can review these sorts of other requirements, if any, that there are. I mean, I think there'll probably be a trench permit something like that. So, basically.
The meeting would be with you?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and the DPW and the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I would expect that was going to be happening anyway, but I will just, verify with Christine and Tony that they're okay with that condition. And I don't see why they wouldn't be.
So why don't we start with questions? Peter, you want to start?
Well, I was just going to comment, the land disturbance permit, as we know, is under the town stormwater program, and you'll find the regs online.
Yep.
If it's needed.
Well, yeah,
It's needed.
it'll tell you.
Peter, do you have any other
No
questions?
questions, though. Thank you.
No? Chris, anything?
No, I'm ready to approve.
I'm good. I'm
You're
good.
I'm good.
Okay, all right, I'm good too. So Mark recused himself.
That's right.
So we
Public.
are, any comments from the public? This is a public hearing, so do we have anyone in the room that, or online that wants to comment on this project? I don't see anything. All right, so I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
I move to close the hearing.
Motion from Chris,
Second.
second from Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed?
I move, Mr. Chairman, to approve the project, to issue our standard order of conditions, but we have a special condition that we have a pre-construction meeting that includes our DPW representative as well as our conservation agent.
So moved from Chris. Any second?
Second.
Second from Bill. Any further discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimous. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So Jillian, can I let you know when it's ready to pick up? And just a reminder that I need that check.
Oh, and maybe.
They're gonna need them.
Thank you.
Do you want these back?
You guys want?
Oh, they don't want them back.
No?
You wanna take these?
I'll get rid of them. Well, okay.
You're gonna
Okay.
need them.
All right. Next
Just let
up,
you know, keep them the right way.
next up, you can use them for trench.
Right.
Next
big
up, notice of
project.
intent. This is continued from October 8th. This is, let's see, Kathy Romberg is the applicant for Palet Drive. And we are back in session on this. And this has to do with that's right, this was the parking area and the turnaround. So just as a pre-note, we had asked at our last meeting that this was discussed. I don't remember exactly which meeting this was, but we asked for both the DPW and the fire chief to attend, and they both declined to attend. Dave, did you have any comment on that? I think you talked to them both
Yeah.
on that, and they didn't give a.
Yeah, no, they just said you can let the commission know that we have declined. Here.
So, that's where we're at. I do know that DPW did review the original submission, but there's a resubmission, is that right?
Yes,
And
yes.
they're still reviewing that?
Well, let me see. There's a meeting. There's an email from Sheila that I just haven't had a chance. And then Casey, you replied. Let me see what. So she is an email to Casey. Apologies that I was not able to fully complete a letter in time for tonight's Conservation Commission hearing. I need a minimum of 1 week for a thorough review, and I did not have that based on when this was submitted. But I thought I let her know that we understood that and the hearing would be continued anyway.
Yeah, I just responded and said totally understood, not a problem.
Okay. So maybe Casey, you can just summarize the changes that have been made.
So I kind of would like to start off with.
Sorry, can you give me your name? Yeah.
Casey Ferrer, Howard 10 Hudson.
Thanks.
I kind of would like to start off with, planning board had a lot of the same questions that this commission had, which was why now, and why are we forcing this now? What's the big issue here? And that kind of led us. One of their other recommendations was, can you try and find a way to acquire a piece of it, to continue to use it, So that led us down a path of trying to find those answers. The answer that we got on why now was that there was a couple of complaints called in. Wouldn't tell me who, obviously. And additionally, there was some kind of response that was required at the cul-de-sac, and the fire apparatus couldn't pull around the vehicles. So combined with the complaints and the fire apparatus, they determined that the cease and desist was warranted. In going down the path of acquiring the property, yes, it's a possibility, but no.
I'm sorry, just clarify, acquiring
the pieces of the cul-de-sac that we would need to maintain the existing parking.
Got it.
Yes, it's a possibility, but it's not, there's no assurances with following that path. So, it would be at our own risk to devote that money to following that path, and then to ultimately either be denied by the select board, denied by town meeting. So really, I just don't think it's in the best interest of my clients to kind of venture down that path without any assurances, especially on a project where, money is an issue and it's not economically viable. So with that, I will move on to the changes that we made. So hearing the comments from the last meeting, one of the things that we did was we included the runoff from the Tingsboro parcel, Tingsboro Road parcel, I believe it's 112, that runs directly towards the back of our 4 Palet Drive property.
What sheet is that, do you know?
If you go to the grading and drainage sheet, I can point it out. See here, sorry, it's 106. So the 106 Tingsboro Tingsboro Drive property. Sheet flows, basically, you can't see it because there's no actual survey for it, but we use GIS and kind of state of Massachusetts resources to, and visual, like we went out there, to know that it all sheet flows this way. This area at the back of the parking lot is an existing riprap kind of detention pond. But it's evident that it does sheet flow into that riprap pond, and then if that riprap pond were to overflow, it would go towards kind of the southeastern corner of our property. So in response to some of the comments that we received, we did include that. We don't have a way to gather how much infiltration they're getting out of that pond, so conservatively we just assumed that it doesn't infiltrate anything there and it just sheet flows onto our property. Additionally, another one of the comments that we had was around the berm of the pond. There was questions on whether or not the pavement from Castores would drain directly into the pond, whether or not there was going to be a berm or something to prevent that flow from that impervious into the pond. So we expanded the pond over in that area. We're going to work with Castores to remove a portion of that existing pavement that's within the buffer zone and use that to establish a berm around the outside of the pond. And that's really just to really signify that none of that impervious is going to go into our pond untreated. It's going to maintain the current drainage path that it takes, which is from the pavement down, and it kind of swales next to where the pond is, but it's going to hit that berm and then go directly in to maintain its drainage path. And then lastly, one of the items that I wasn't totally satisfied with was we had a reduction in flow and volume for all storm events except the 100-year storm event, where we had a small, very minimal increase in the flow. So in reworking that berm, we were able to get all flow and all volumes lower in the post-development than the pre-development. So there's no longer any exceptions. It is meeting in all storm events. And another big one that actually we did do, we added an outlet device to the pond that's going to direct it more closer to the wetland. This may not be in the best interest or what values the Conservation Commission sees, but it was a very big concern that we heard from all of the abutters on Dunshire Drive, was that we were directing the stormwater directly at the drainage ditch and a point source, which they felt was going to then inundate the ditch and then cause more flooding back onto Dunshire Drive. There is still going to be overflow that goes to the ditch, but we've added an additional outflow that kind of directs it away from the drainage ditch to split the outflow. That way it's not all directed at one place or the other. We're allowing it to kind of spread over 2 different areas so that nobody feels inundated by excess flow. And I believe with that, that covers the changes that we made.
David, did you have any more comment?
Just a question, actually. So Casey, what you just said, so is that an outlet control structure there?
It is an outlet control structure.
So how does that function? How is that accomplishing the purpose?
So what we've essentially done is we've added it's going to be either a precast concrete structure, it might end up being plastic, depends on who can provide what and what the estimated cost will be with construction. But it'll have an orifice in it, so basically an opening, so as the pond fills up, it'll eventually hit the orifice of that structure. That orifice will lead it to a pipe. That pipe will discharge. That's not going to take the entirety of flow coming out of the pond. So the pond will continue to stage, and at some point the pond will stage over the weir where it was previously proposed to outflow from. So it's going to use both of them. It's just going to use the smaller one first and then use the weir that goes to the ditch.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's all I had.
Okay. So if I understand the status, though, David, we're still waiting for DPW's comments on this.
On the revisions, yes.
So
yes.
we'll have to continue no matter what,
it. Yes.
based on that.
Yes.
Okay.
And just as a note there, I did talk to Sheila this afternoon. She did say that she wanted to discuss a question or two that she had, but overall there was no glaring concerns that she had, and her letter, once received, will reflect that.
Okay. So does anyone in the commission have any questions or comments? John, do you have anything you want to ask any further?
No, I said my piece when we first started that this is a forced build. So they've done a tremendous job with what they got to work with. So if they can't use the cul-de-sac, they have to park somewhere. So it's a forced build. You know, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
Yep. Okay. All right. Thanks. Bill?
Not right now.
Mark?
I still have concerns with that pond. If you're cutting down a number of trees that were existing there now, part of it was used for a blind, so the houses wouldn't see it as much from the buildings that are on Kingsborough Road. They're gonna be gone. There's no way to replicate that, is there? Planting trees somewhere, someplace else to.
So one thing that we're discussing with the applicant at this time, and it kind of wraps into a planning board concern, which would be the parking. And we can't commit to anything at this time, but the potential for planting arborvitaes along this strip of pavement here, of the parking lot here, we can't commit to it yet because we don't know what the cost will be, what the cost effect will be. But there is also an existing fence line still to continue to screen. The fence was in order to be replaced this year, but assuming the costs that are incoming, the fence replacement has been put off, but it will be done at some point. So for now, we're maintaining that we're going to keep the fence. Eventually, it will be upgraded, but there's a potential for us to add plantings. It would be approximately 16 to 20 plantings along that strip, but we just cannot commit to that at this time.
One of the other questions was concerns, I guess, more is public safety. When that, it's not our jurisdiction, I get that. But when the cars come up from the circle, going in the backyard there's a doorway right reaching there, comes right out to that driveway. It's tucked in.
You're talking about these pads right in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
There's-
there are
I'm
doors,
just
but
bringing
they're
it
not
up.
right into the driveway. There's a concrete pad. It's not like they're gonna be stepping out of the door and down into the driveway.
For adults,
Yes.
for kids, it'd be different. Not
Understood.
our jurisdiction, just bringing it up.
Understood.
I'm still, the way it is now, I'm not really fond of this plan. I know you guys worked on it, but I'm just not a big fan of it.
Understood.
Okay. Chris?
I mean, my comments are, I mean, it's a tough site. It's a tough site, and it's tough. It's tough to make the changes, and I think these guys are doing the best with the task of trying to add the parking on the site. But it's a tough site, and as a conservation agent, I'm concerned about the loss of, the loss of the trees, right? And the loss of the vegetation, the loss of the lawn. And it's a trade-off. I mean, parking versus lawn, trees. But that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Peter?
Can somebody refresh my memory? How far is this from Deep Brook, the property? Casey?
It runs through Deep Brook.
So some of this project is within the 200-foot riverfront?
I don't believe that's an intermittent stream at that point.
No, it's
The
an
very edge of
actual
the-
brook.
Deep Brook, the wetlands, meet the edge of your Fort Paylett property is, because we're at 19 Dunshire, and we meet Paylett property on the back edge and that corner edge, and that's where Deep Brook runs through Frank's Rock Conservation.
I'll-
That's where
I'll-
the wetlands are.
That's what the GIS is showing me.
I'll bring that up.
So the edge of your property is Deep Brook. The line runs through
It
it.
definitely in the floodplain, but I don't think it's in the two.
Through that floodplain.
Well, let me jump ahead, because that's really the preface of my one question. David, as I understand our regs, development within the 200-foot riverfront, it requires an alternatives analysis.
That is
And I haven't seen one. And I feel like you do, Mark, and some of the others. Those trees are pretty important for a lot of reasons.
Yes, but Deep Brook is touching the edge of the property, not the edge of the construction zone.
Yeah, that's my question, but the construction, Casey, I'm looking at your drawings and I'm having trouble seeing what I want to see.
Yep.
So where exactly is the basin on that drawing?
Right here. So
No, the parking is in the hatched area. The
correct.
yeah.
And then Deep Brook is down here.
Right, but the infiltration basin is right where the parcel number is.
Is right here about, yeah.
That small? Yeah.
So this is the 200-foot riverfront area,
Right.
right
So
here.
we're
Is it-
well outside the 200-foot.
Yeah, so the property is on it, but not this part of the project, David?
Correct,
And so the regs
Correct.
don't apply? The 200 foot
Correct.
doesn't apply?
correct.
Okay. Then the only other comment, Carl, is kind of the same comment. I read the letters that your client was given by the state, or they were read to me.
Town, yeah.
And I thought what the letter said was you can park there for a while, but not in the winter. So
No, the letter said, get it figured out and you can park there for now.
Close enough.
Essentially.
So what I'm getting at is you briefly mentioned an alternative, which would be some arrangement with the town to own the land. And I understand the uncertainty part that you described. And I'm trying to put myself in the position of the condo owners. I probably wouldn't like that uncertainty either. But we're here to try to find those compromises between conservation and living here in this town. So I would just echo Mark's point, is I would like to hear a little bit more from somebody about the real challenge in working with the town. And
At this point, there's always going to be an if and an and. There's always going to be some other project that could be done. But this isn't a development that's backed by money and funds that can go down uncertain paths. I can't, in the conscience of, my licensure, say, let's go down this path and see if we can find a better project, because
yeah.
I
So-
don't think that's available.
Yeah, and what I'm suggesting here is above my and your pay grade. I don't even know how to make something like that happen, but it is a question that we're all asking, or some of us are asking. Is there a better way?
And I don't think that there's a feasible way to get there. That's based on conversations with the town, based on conversations with Tony, town engineer, Josh Abbott, fire preservation officer. They had conversations with Paul Cohn, Christine Clancy. Doesn't appear that there is a viable path to get there. And that's, I took that path and I said, we can't continue that path.
That's all I have, Carl. Thank you.
So,
I have just one more question.
Yep.
So Casey, what is the swept path plan?
That was requested as part of the planning board to see how the fire truck maneuvers in and out.
Okay,
That's all.
thank you.
Yep.
So, this is a public hearing, and I know we have some of the neighbors here, some of the interested parties, so I'd like to give them a chance to get up and, I guess I'm gonna ask that we don't just repeat what was said at previous meetings, because we've heard that already, but I know we had some really good commentary the last time, so we're open to any kind of comments if you wanna come up and address us.
Hello, Amelia Caputo Starkweather, 19 Dunshire Drive, and I have direct conservation concerns. So the Fort Paylette property, its edges Deep Brook, its drainage of that pond, and much of its property is the mitigation ditch, that intermittent stream that then goes to the wetlands. And I have a lot of concerns because the only pollutants they're accounting for are total suspended solids and phosphorus, despite the fact that we live in New England. Is it not going to be salted? How will they keep the salt out of there? What other things? Asphalt leaches all sorts of chemicals. There's existing pavement, but they're adding a lot more, and that will end up in the water and the groundwater, which will end up in the wetlands. We are actually like less than a mile from a natural heritage designation stone on the Merrimack. So are animals using this pathway of up Deep Brook, down Deep Brook? There's Swain Park has a conservation area. Deep Brook has a conservation area just upstream. They abut Frank Brock's conservation area. So, like, is there been any study to say that there aren't animals that are protected under Massachusetts Endangered Species Act that are using this area, and are they going to be poisoning them? Are they going to be destroying their homes? They're ripping up trees. They're adding pollutants. I spoke with my friend who is studying for an entomologist, to be an entomologist, and while he doesn't live in this area, he's looked at some of the research about parking lot discharge. And he was finding one that larval dragonflies are being poisoned by road salt, and that just low-level exposure decreases their immune response, and they may not successfully grow to be adult dragonflies. That asphalt has 50-plus known pollutants that even if they meet human safety standards, they still may poison aquatic wildlife. And so I have a lot of concerns that these pollutions are not mitigated. And dragonflies eat so many mosquitoes, all these things where it's like, are these accounted for? Will these changes cause devastation on the area of it's not their property, but it's right next to it? And we're all deeply interconnected with the water that we share on these properties. And how will that be handled?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else?
James Starkweather, 19 Dunshire Drive. My only concern is that this is not solving the problem. 14 spaces is not going to get the cars off Paylette Drive, excuse me. And you already brought up the risk. It's not your concern, but it's a valid point, and I'll bring it up tomorrow night with the safety of that driveway, the blind spots. And I absolutely am on board for going down the road of deeding the cul-de-sac to the landlady. And that's all I have to say, because taking down the 20 trees or 10 trees or how many trees, we're way too close to a heritage site to take the risk, in my opinion. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You get almost the whole family. The other one's in Vermont, so you won't hear from her today. Michelle Caputo Starkweather, 19 Dunshire Drive. So I actually have a couple questions. The first is actually about the modified project plan that we received. I'm going to put this down before I drop it on the floor. I received this and I was kind of a little confused. So on the pre and post ground covers, all nodes, and you can break it down in whatever way you want to break it down, but I looked at it and I said, okay, on page 5 of the pre, which when you go into the printing, if you want to look at it, it's page number 34. It says there's 64,433 square feet, and that would be including the abutters, and it is broken down into grass, paved parking, roofs, and woods. When I look at the post, same exact footprint. That's page number 5 on post. printing page number 51, in case anyone wants to look at it, in the supplemental data. 64,433 square feet, same square footage, grass, paved parking, roofs, and woods. Where's the pond? The pond is not grass. The pond is not grass. The conversation that we had previously,
Sorry, Casey, you can
the conversation
respond in
we
a minute. Yeah.
previously had was that water is an impervious surface. As soon as there is water in that pond, it is an impervious surface. It continues to get deeper and deeper and deeper. It is not grass. It is, and we keep being told, oh, you didn't lose that much grass. We did lose grass. The actual grass cover is not grass. It's actually a pond. So we shouldn't be, whether you want to call it as grass in the description on how you're calling it, I don't think it's grass anyways. But okay, I guess we get the magic of hydrology and engineering and HydroCAD. So that's fine. But you can't keep saying you still have grass when it's not grass. When you're describing what does it look like when you're done? Oh, you got a whole lot of grass. No, you don't. Okay. The second one is, I do actually have copies of those letters. And I'm going to put my glasses on because reading small print doesn't work. So, the letter that was sent on November 23rd, it specifically says, parking can be accommodated around the cul-de-sac or in areas of on-street parking. There's no any kind of anything. For the October 24th meeting from the Department of Public Works, the direction that was given to the 4 Paylette Drive and remains is that there is no parking that is allowed in the cul-de-sac that limits emergency vehicle access. That is all the restriction is. There is no restriction that says they cannot park on the sides of the road, and I did confirm that with the conversation I had with your very lovely engineer from the DPW, Tony Rapucci. He was very, very helpful in explaining a whole lot of things. I also wanted to point out that your Chapter 195 zoning says in 195-16, off-street parking to be provided, common parking areas. A, at the end of it says, existing building and uses need not comply unless expanded or otherwise changed to increase their parking needs. So there is no need for a parking lot. There is no need to build one and dig up our woods and everything else. They have been told they can park on the street, except I guess during snow. And apparently, we have a lot of property lines that don't match to where people are building. If you're looking at Castori's, the left-hand side, there's a whole section that belongs to the Frank Brock's area that isn't Castori's parking lot. It's actually Frank Brock's, which I guess is the town's. So again, we could have some more parking over there that's not Castori's. And when I went into, because I was like, I think they just put like lines on the side of the road, and as long as you're inside those lines, you're allowed to park. If the town came in and just, like I went into Vinyl Square in front of Zesty's, there's a section where it's lined by the DPW or somebody, and there's signs up that say 30-minute parking. There's other places in town where it says no parking on street during snow emergencies. No parking, I don't even know when the street sweeping, I'm sure there's somewhere in there something like that. But all they need to do is mark off the edge of the road where they're allowed to park and where they're not allowed to park. X off the fire lanes, X off whatever they want, and there's no reason that they can't park on that street.
Again, this is a conservation meeting, so the
Okay.
parking, I think,
But
is a good conversation for tomorrow night.
Okay, but it is related to, we're being told there is no alternative, there is only this.
We hear you.
And we're saying there are alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Sarita Fernandez, Dunshire Drive. I'm going to try to keep my comments kind of truncated. I'm going to follow up with an email because I do have a few more concerns after hearing what Casey said today. I do appreciate, you guys listening. I appreciate the extra work that you've done because there's definitely been some changes, but I still have some questions. One of them is I keep on hearing money being an issue. If they can't maintain the fence today, that's supposed to keep trash out of that intermittent stream that you call it, which ends up in the wetlands with the trash that flows today, how are they going to maintain the pond and keep that to what it's supposed to be? Because there's going to be a cost associated with that. The person that maintains the property today, they have a company that comes in and does it, and the person that's doing the maintaining of the lawn is one person. He's there all the time. He takes care of that property and the condo property. So that's a concern. I'd like to understand if they can't replace the fence, which is falling apart and been disrepair for a long time. There's other parts of the property that seems to not be maintained properly. How are they going to maintain this pond? The other thing is they're removing a portion of the pavement. Appreciate that. But why can't they remove that entirety of the portion of pavement that Castorias has entered into the area the pavement should not be there? That would both open up more green space, right? That would open up area and make it so the water's flowing into that direction where it should. So why not open up that fully and work with them? And it's still not clear if that's actually going to happen, because I think the statement in the drawing says try to work with them. So, that would be something that, can we get it in writing that's actually going to be removed? And also, I didn't see any berm plan on there. What does that look like as well? I did see the outlet, and I do, like I said, I appreciate that following more of the diagonal line headed towards, the area of flow, which is better. I don't understand why the riprap area, which is up there, cannot be moved in the same direction, so the overflow also is going there. One thing I noticed in your plan with that portion that you're looking to add, which, like I said, I'll follow up with an email, but the bottom of the retention pond is at 99.5 feet. I didn't see how much bigger that footprint was getting by adding that section that's pavement, because if you look in the drawing in the corner, can I go up there for a moment, just a point?
Yep.
Yeah, so it looks like the area that they're getting from the restaurant is this section right here, and you can see that's all the angle in. The lower portion of the retention pond, which is here, is at 99.5. This is just a steeper incline in, and it's hard to see where that's going to hold additional water. And if you go to the very last page of the plot plan, they did a good view of the side view of what the pond's going to look like. And you can see the orifice opening there is actually going to be lower than the intended earlier overflow. And it's at the very bottom of the page. They show like the cross view. And the thing just to note about this one, understand that that drawing's actually turned. So if you're looking at the drawing successively, that drawing's actually turned, so it looks like the outlet's going to the right, but it's not. So right now you have the overflow, the wear is at 100.7, right, which is what they have. This is showing obviously a cross view. The area that they added for that over here, where is it? The 100.2, this isn't gonna hold any water. So even though they expanded the retention pond, I'm not clear on how much more water that you are holding by having this, because the orifice is lower, so water is going to be flowing out at an earlier point, so it's not holding as much water as it was originally intended to by the design. Is there any way to make this like steeper? Like, what's the reason why like your edge where it's 102, why this can't be made deeper to actually maintain more at the 99.5 when you're breaking it out? And like I said, that pavement area, why not extend it a little bit more into there? Get rid of the pavement and get more impervious, like more pervious surface to have more water being absorbed to the area that you're looking at. Just an alternative thought. A couple of us have tried arborvitaes in that area. Massive fails all the time because the area is so wet. You can see at one point I did that in the back of my yard trying to make it a block. I think I'm down to 6 left. When I originally planted them, I had 20 something. The neighbor next to me to the left at I forget his address, 29, I forget which way it goes, but he's had fails as well. They also don't seem to do much for the wildlife. Like, it's not something, I mean, they might get eaten by the deer, but so I'm curious as well if there's any other type of vegetation that could be planted in the area for wildlife to both have hide spots, is there anything else that you can do to help that? And maybe by reclaiming a portion of that pavement area, you could do something like that you didn't have the option before. So, I know this is a hard thing. The only other comment, and I'll bring this up tomorrow, that parking, which we'll bring back, and just a quick comment on that. One of the letters stated parallel parking. They have never parked parallel on that area, and I don't know if you actually could fit enough cars there if you parked parallel along the edge. They currently park perpendicular, and if you look at the bylaws, which you brought up regarding to parking, it should be parallel to the roadway's edge unless it's actually been approved to be perpendicular. So it's just something that's there. So like I said, I'll follow up with an email with some more information, because I did see some of the changes, and I want to read through the documents a little bit more thoroughly, but those are my ones right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, appreciate it. Anyone else? Yep.
Can we get this posted? Or it's perhaps already enough there? I'll try to work on what you have. Okay. John Kelly, 38 Dunshire Drive. Spoke earlier about the fallen timber, and he said it was conservation, and I'm trying to stay with conservation. Its concern was not removing anything. What about adding things to conservation? Can we dump things in? Can we add things to conservation? Because my question is that this retention pond is, all this, we're taking absorbent soil and we're adding a lot of asphalt to it. This retention pond, if you look at that drawing I have, this area right here, on that print there, we'll say this is the proposed salt storage, snow removal storage facility. That takes up apparently less than 2 parking spaces. I don't know why anybody would pile snow up against a building. I think it's a safety concern. But anybody knows anything about snow plowing, you can't start, the truck doesn't magically end up at the other end and push things that way. It's all gonna end up being pushed towards that retention pond, towards the fence at the, on Dunshire Drive. And as you mentioned earlier, and did a wonderful job about salt and pollutants, you were just concerned about a 12-foot shed and not allowing them to store gas, hazardous material. We're talking about thousands of square feet of parking where it's got oil, transmission fluid, gas, brake fluid, everything, salt being stored, directly thrown into a water supply. All right? So when you want to talk about conservation, strictly speaking, you've just done it. You just talked about a 12-foot roof, and you wanted a boundary around it. Now we're putting thousands of square feet of asphalt, hazardous material beyond belief, and yet we're going to throw it directly into a water system. There's no buffer zone. And the last point I want to make about that is, no matter how you look at it, there's a water problem already there that we can't control. It's any water we add to it is only going to make it worse. These are recent pictures, okay? This occurs weekly, no, let's say monthly. That's a 3-8 culvert, all right? That's this year. And we were promised a 100-year storm to prevent that. Dunshire Drive, Deep Brook can't handle the water it has now. Perfect example of this, we have not had water. We have not had rain for over 2 months now. And yet, Deep Brook is flowing and backing up. We should have no water whatsoever, but we have allowed the asphalt plant, all these other developments on Dunstable Road, all the way into Tingsboro, to let more and more water come. Deep Brook runs all the way up to Tingsboro. We've allowed all that water to come down onto our land, and no one's done anything else to open up downstream, right? You're contaminating, flooding wetlands, period. And finally, you were saying that there was an issue where it's a forced issue. It hasn't been forced in 60 years. The fact that the fire department is not here, or anybody from safety is any concerned about it, apparently doesn't mean to make a big difference to anybody, right? But if you look at this one picture right here, all right? That's my garage, sandbagged underwater. This happens all the time. Anything you do to add water, and you talk about that, you're doing the best you can. But when you add a brim to divert water elsewhere, it's not being absorbed. That brim is now causing a high velocity flow to be directed somewhere else. It's not being absorbed, it's being flowed at a high rate, it's being redirected. You haven't cured anything, you've just made an erosion pond. Is anybody have any rebuttal or questions they want to ask me?
We're gonna let Casey respond to all of the questions. So,
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, sure.
Just, you're right, but keep in mind, this commission has a very strict playbook called the Town Bylaw and the State Wetland Protection Act. So a lot of the stuff you mentioned are real environmental concerns, but we don't always have the tools in the regulations to deal with things like, pavement impacts on dragonflies. So anyone that's interested in that, come talk to us after the meeting, because there's lots of things that could be done, but we are limited by our rules.
You're doing a great deal you're changing a great deal of the environment at Deep Brook. This isn't some little dragonfly thing. This is changing everything. The fish, the turtles, everything that's in there. And the mere fact that you're flooding people's properties beyond conception, beyond my belief. So this is not a simple thing of dragonflies or guppies or turtles or free frogs. There's a lot of critters, a lot of animals, a lot.
Oh, it's all connected. You're right. It's all connected.
Thank you very much. Yep, thanks. Anyone else? Casey, why don't you take a stab at some of the responses?
So I covered this thought pretty extensively at the last meeting, but I'll reiterate it again. This project results in a net reduction in volume and flow that goes out to both the mitigation ditch, the wetland. I don't know, I understand that there's flooding issues. I understand that there's a culvert that the state has yet to take care of. Flooding is a result of an increase in volume. We've shown through all drainage analysis, through the last drainage analysis for last plan, the drainage analysis for this plan, it's been peer reviewed by other engineers. There is a reduction in volume. So a reduction in volume is going to result in a net loss of water going towards the resource area, towards the zone that's flooding. I don't know, I can't lean on that any more than I am now. There's a net reduction in volume going towards that. We have very strict performance criteria that we have to meet anytime that we want to do any sort of development within the resource or within buffer zones of the resource areas. Again, pavement is allowed in the town of Chelmsford outside of the 30-foot buffer zone. Okay, we're not asking for any waiver or reduction in the setback from the wetland for the pavement. The state gives us very clear guidance on how to treat stormwater runoff from pavement. The town gives us even more crystal clear guidance on how to treat runoff from pavement. We're meeting all of those for all the new pavement that we have. The only pavement that we are not meeting treatment for is the existing runoff that goes towards Palet. Yes, we're going to repave it, but it's an overall reduction in impervious surface that is not being treated that's running towards Palet Drive. So I understand that there's concerns with species, with chemicals, with runoff contaminants. There's performance criteria that we have to meet as designers, as engineers, that we have to meet when we present projects to the commission, to the state, and we meet those. We've shown that we meet those to the maximum extent practical that we can, given the situation that we have. All of the new pavement in the rear, everything that we are draining, everything that we are taking in and treating is met to all the standards. The only thing that is not met to standard is what we cannot capture, that's running as it currently does, and we're reducing the amount that it is. Another thing I'll bring up again, I spoke with Tony Rapucci on the phone. I asked him if he was coming to this meeting. He said he was not. He said he had no interest. He said, I can't make him come here. I can't make the fire prevention officer come here to state why they're making us do this. Yes, you can park on the side of any public roadway, but you cannot use that as your only source of parking, at least based on what I was dictated from the town engineer that's coming down from the DPW director, from other safety officers in town. If they're going to let us park, we're going to do that. There would be no reason for us to pursue this further if there was an alternative option that didn't require us to build this. We don't want to do this. This is something that we are being told that we have to get done. We have to find a way to park our vehicles, and it cannot be within the right-of-way. It cannot be within the cul-de-sac. We can park, for now, around the cul-de-sac to the best of our ability and stay out of the way of safety, but it cannot be the solution that we move forward with. As was stated before, you can parallel park. That's not going to get us all the spaces that we need, and we're going to, again, be in the way of fire equipment. As far as Castori's pavement, I know that my client is very interested in removing the Castori's pavement. But Castori's paved it. I don't know how long it's been there. They may have legal right for it now that it's been there for a certain amount of time. She is exploring that endeavor, but we cannot promise that it's going to be removed at this time. So that's why she would like it to be removed. She doesn't want it there, but we do not know at this time if we are actually able to just go there and remove it. The berm area for the pond that we increased, the berm is just a contour. Can you slide to the right here? The berm is this contour. So originally this 102 contour stopped. We've extended it all the way down. So that 102 contour up against this other existing 102 contour is what creates the berm to prevent any water from flowing further. And the additional, the pond itself, we're not going to expand it any further even if we do remove pavement. Right now, as proposed, it meets all the requirements that it needs to meet. There's no reason to make it any bigger. It has less flow, less volume. There's a balancing act that we have to do when we talk about conservation. We can't just starve the wetlands either. We can't take all the water from it. We can't say that before it's getting 1,000 cubic feet and now it's getting 0. Hey, we're better because it's less. Well, now we're starving the wetlands of water. So we have to have a balancing act of, okay, what we have now, what's going to make it better? What do we need to meet all of the requirements? That's not the only requirement in pre to post. There's also recharge requirements, phosphorus requirements that all play a factor in how much volume we hold and how much we keep within that pond. Once all those are met, we're not going to go any further. There's no reason for us to expand it any further.
The pond is vegetated or will become vegetated.
The pond will be grass. Yes, it will have water, but in most scenarios, it's going to be just grass. The reason that we don't consider it as an impervious surface when doing this is it's not hydric. The underlying soil, once it becomes inundated with water, will still accept water. So yes, there will be a surface of water, but it's still accepting water. Once the intermittent stream becomes inundated with water, it's not going to accept any water because that is the groundwater table. So that's the difference between why we consider the intermittent stream as an impervious surface as it flows versus the pond. The pond is considered grass for all intents and purposes as part of the drainage analysis. The question on arborvitae, again, that's a work in progress. We're trying to figure out what we need to do there, what we can do there, and what we can afford to do there. Pond maintenance, it's going to be a requirement whether my client can figure out, they have to figure out how to afford that. That's going to be a requirement. It's going to be part of the order of conditions. It's going to have to be submitted to DPW, to conservation on a yearly basis. That's the only way, that I can promise you that the pond is going to be maintained because it's overseen now much more than it has been in the past. But every project that I brought before this commission, it's on the order of conditions that all maintenance receipts have to be submitted. As far as my list goes, that's what I wrote down. But if there's any outstanding questions that the commission has, I'm happy to answer them.
No, I think we're good. So we're going to be continuing this to a future meeting, I presume the next meeting, which is November 20-something. 26th? Yeah. So we'll be continuing it to then. I know there's also a planning board meeting tomorrow night where I'm sure some of these topics will come up again. So I know that the public still has some questions based on both your responses and all of the things going on. So there's still more time for that kind of participation. I'd like to move us along, though. I think, is there any more, do you have a specific question?
Say specifics for our next conversation. Have they done any study on the flow rate of the so-called temporary stream, the culvert or not? Do they know whether it actually flows uphill or not? of it flows to a deep brook, will the water remain in our backyard? Is there any flow?
So,
It's a
We
state
won't test
issue.
the flow test, but do we flow test the brook capability to get to the,
so we can capture, let's, yeah, so do you have a quick answer, Casey, or?
All I can tell you is that I've been told repeatedly that the flow issues are stemming from a state culvert issue. I don't have any flow tests. I don't need to provide any because I'm providing less volume to that ditch and to that water source.
Okay.
So
all right,
in doing so,
so maybe we should look into that, because you can see for yourself.
Yeah, okay. Can you come up, please? We really should have you come up.
This is just a question, I guess, for Ruth Fernandez, Dunshire Drive, for Casey. I think there was a survey done in the easement where that line is with the vegetation, the numbers. Somebody had gotten elevation markers. Is that possible to get what the elevations are of that run? Because that right now is where the water is flowing. And to his question of is it going uphill or not in that specific area, is there a list somewhere we can get?
Casey, can you come up to this one? I'm sorry.
I'm just asking for clarification on her.
No, I'll show here. I think it was in where you have these numbers, like the 7, 8, 9.
Yeah,
Wasn't there a
those little
study?
wetland flags.
Right, was there an elevation survey done here? I think, has Tony done one? Because there's something where, because we were talking about flow here being pretty flat after the recent, when they did some cleanup back there. Somebody has some numbers here. Is it possible to get what those numbers are to see what the flow is in this area?
The state has them on Mass Mapper. I'll look at them.
I think Tony took some.
I don't, Tony is not, I'm not part of
Just to
any
answer,
culvert study.
right, just to answer the question though that he has about flow, because they're adding flow from the riprap. Everyone's talking about the flow coming in, coming to the backyards here. We're talking about flow not going down this line. Somebody has these markers because they were recent. They were after they did the cleanup in, I think it was 2023. So there was talk about this being flat, a lot of the water coming now, not going out where it's supposed to be. So, I mean, that might answer some people's questions here if we could get it.
Right. So, I guess to that point, whether or not the stream is currently flowing left to right or stagnant or whatnot, if I'm adding less volume to it, I'm not making any conditions worse. In any case, if I am taking my water and instead of putting it towards the western side of the stream where it's not going to run east, well, now I'm directly putting it towards that east where it should run anyway. So in that case, I'd be making it even better by fast-tracking that water to a place where it is going to move along and get out. But as far as flow studies, I know the town is doing some sort of overall stormwater and whatever study for these culverts and for but also what I've talked to Tony about is there's an issue with a state culvert. He can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about it. He can't even push the state to do it in his position. So I certainly can't. So, you know, as much as I empathize with the flood issues on Dunshire Drive, the only thing I can do is make it so that I'm not making it worse. All my hydraulic calculations have shown that I'm not making it worse. It's peer-reviewed, stamped by a professional engineer. It's as much as I can do.
Okay.
I just have one more real quick.
Sure.
It'll be real quick, I promise.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So again, it's Ruth Fernandez, Dunshire Drive. You're talking about volume and flow. I live at the bottom of that culvert. They released the fire hydrant up at the top at extremely high volume flow rate coming down, and it caused erosion at the bottom of that portion. That was the start of trying to fix some of the water that was going there. You're now taking an area that had a wide range of flow, a big area, right? And you had volume of water. I get it, I understand, but it was going over a bigger surface area. You're now redirecting that water out a pipe and out an overflow of an area, which is again coming to a very narrow portion of an area. So your comment about not affecting it, it is affecting it by the fact that it went from being spread out to being direct. You take a fire hose, you shoot it at the ground in one portion coming out hard, it's gonna cause erosion. You spread it out over a bigger area, it flows and it doesn't cause that same type of erosion. That's our concern. So you're saying that you're not affecting us, but you're affecting us.
Well, yes, and one of the things that we also have to prove as part of our submissions to both the state and to you is that we're not creating erosion All of these outlets are fitted with riprap, which is sized appropriately for the pipe size and flow that's coming out of it. What the riprap does is it disperses the flow prior to hitting any sedimentated soil so that it cannot cause erosion, and it will not cause erosion. That's the point of the riprap overflows and the riprap outlets.
Okay.
And that's
All
why it's
right.
called a flared end section,
Yeah.
because it flares it out over an
We're
area.
going to end it there. Thank you. And I'll take a motion to continue the hearing. Is this the last one? Okay, all right. Thought we already had the last one 3 times.
Sorry. So I'm going to do a pointing, oh, sorry. Michelle Caputo, Starkweather, 19 Dunshire Drive. Okay. So this new little outlet here that they're adding, that actually goes into one of the other buffer zones. They're going to have to dig up into another one of the buffer zones. I forget which one it was. Do you remember which one it was? The 25?
That line is the
This one here.
25, that's the wetlands, that's 25, and it goes through the 30 and then over the 25.
So they're actually, you don't like magically put a culvert and a pipe and stuff. You have to dig out, take up whatever's there, put in a pipe, and then refill it. So I'm curious if, like, how is that allowed? Because that's, again, in another no touching buffer zone. I'm a little concerned about that as well. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue the meeting until our next, continue the hearing until our next meeting on November 26th, 2024.
Motion from Chris. Do I have a
Second.
Second from Bill. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is unanimous. Okay, so we will continue to our next meeting. Thank you all very much for good discussion.
Thank you.
Yep. Next, next
One
on,
thing I stressed last time is try to get Rodney Elliott involved in this to get that culvert changed over on 3A.
that's the biggest,
Yeah, that's what's killing that
I
area.
just submitted, I've been in touch with Mass Restoration, which is doing a big project to restore a lot of Deep Brook, and they've sent engineers, they have the drawings, I sent them to Anthony and Christine this week.
That's a town. That's a state-owned road. That's a state culvert. You want to get the state involved in that.
Yeah.
Town doesn't have, like you said,
I'm saying, we have got the state, and also the state's willing to give people information on, grant money to have this explored,
okay,
and they are
Good.
receiving this week.
good, yeah, but having Representative Elliott engaged
Right.
is a good thing. Thanks, Mark. Okay, next on our agenda, we are at 10 Hildreth Street. This has been asked to be continued, I believe, David, to the
Yes.
next meeting.
That is correct.
I'm having a little bit of a concern that you and I talked about this, that this hearing was opened, this application was opened in September of 2023, so we are now into month 14 or 15 for this. I understand that, it's just the nature of this complicated projects and all that, but at what point, you and I had some conversation, at what point do we say we're not getting the information we need? And I don't know if you have any comment you want to make on that, David.
The only comment that I really can make is that Brian Goudreau, the applicant's consultant, has assured me that they will have the letter next meeting.
The letter from
Natural Heritage.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So,
And then when we get that, we need to review that
Yes,
letter.
yes.
And understand the impact of that.
yes, yes.
So just to frame this again, this was denied by the planning board, the application, I believe, but we're still open, so I'm just trying to make sure that we get this moving one way or another. We keep continuing it, so I'll take a motion to continue the hearing to the next meeting, November 26th.
Move.
Motion from Bill,
Second.
second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Motion passes. That one's hitting the record for distance, I guess. Okay, nothing under discussion, nothing under continual business. We have land management, Coolest Farms, so updates there. The CR update, so nothing particularly new there, we are in discussions with Sudbury Valley, some back and forth emails and some online calls and whatever, so progress is okay on that.
Have they been out there, Carl?
Yeah, they've been there on site. That was actually quite a while ago. It was quite a few weeks ago. But I think that we'll be able to move forward on that with them. They have to get some approvals from their management, their board has to give some approval, but I think we'll be able to do this. We had an update. We updated the vernal pool buffer zone demarcation. I know there were some events that were being asked to be planned, and David had said to me that he wanted to have that vernal pool marked before we had the events approved. So we got that done last week, and then there's some other events that were being requested for that site. And I know, John, do you want to come up and talk for a minute on this?
Thank you. John Ray, 223 Pine Hill Road. I got the letter, thanks. David, I'm new to this. Well, I'm not new to this. I'm familiar with how to do events, but I'm new to here in the town doing events. So I was a little bit shocked when you said we couldn't do a night walk when you to our first submittal. Couldn't do a night walk for the Scouts. And we've been doing night walks with the Scouts in this town for 20 years. So that was all you said, David. We had to stay in the main field.
Or stay in open areas, not go into the woods. Yes.
Why?
I think it's dangerous or potentially dangerous. I don't know if you've ever been in the woods when it's dark and you hear an animal growl. It was clearly a large animal. I have, and you don't know what might happen. Not only what might happen with a wild animal. It might be someone just doesn't see something on the ground and trips over it in the dark. Or maybe what a human does to another human in the dark. That's why the commission's conservation reservations are typically closed after sunset.
Okay. That I didn't understand that from your response. Yes, I've been on overnight walks in the military. I've been on overnight walks outside of the military. Nonetheless, the Scouts have a badge for overnight walks, and we've been conducting those walks for 20 years.
But if the purpose is stargazing, why do you need to go into the woods?
Well, it was stargazing and overnight night walks. That's the badge, is for a night walk.
Well, the only thing I can say to the members of the commission is, and it's ultimately it's your decision, is that if by chance something did happen to somebody in the dark, where someone was injured or something not good happened, there are going to be fingers pointed to at this commission, saying you showed poor judgment by allowing people into the woods after dark. They're not going to be pointed at you, John. They're going to be pointed at members of this commission.
Well, I will be there, David. I put my name on this because I will be there, but there will be scout leaders there, and there will be parents there, I assume. We would take all the necessary precautions for a night walk. At least today, you have those little LED red lights that you can point down because you don't want to destroy your night vision. And with night vision, we're not going through the woods. We're going on the trail. All right. I mean, I can't walk through the woods in a lot of cases in the daylight, but it would be on the trail, and the trails we've kept them wide and enough to get them their badge.
Well, I've expressed my opinion on that issue.
So I'm a little confused. What was, who is, your name's on the application, but I believe,
Yeah,
who's the party?
it's the Boy Scouts.
Wait, I thought it was Neshoba.
Oh, excuse me. My
Neshoba.
brain, yep, sorry, at this hour of night, Carl, I don't function that well. Yeah, this is Neshoba Outdoor Club.
Outdoor Club,
Yeah.
okay. So it's not, not that it matters that it's.
But as a leader, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same premise. No matter who it is, there would be somebody like myself, all right, who is familiar with a site, and then there would be the leader of the group that comes in, and whether it's Scouts or Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, you have one for each group, and then there would be some parents around, okay? And it's controlled, very controlled. There's no fires, there's no nothing.
How many people are we talking total?
Uh,
You, the
I'm gonna
leaders,
say,
and the kids?
that is kind of loose, but I'm gonna range it somewhere between 10 and 12.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, we're not putting 50 people out there, okay? And I would be really concerned to doing that.
And at what time of night would this be?
We would be starting at 6 o'clock, and we will probably be done by 7:30.
Okay.
7:30, 8 o'clock, because the attention span is not that long.
Yep.
Okay.
And so the ask was for stargazing and.
Stargazing and a night walk, I believe,
Night walk.
David, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't precisely understand.
So
that.
what we've done with this one, all right, because it's been up in the air, we have to give that, and it's for 2 days from now. We've moved it, okay, but there will be more. There's another one, not a night walk, but there's an observation request for an event on December 4th, and that would be in the field.
Okay.
One of the fields,
Has
but
that been submitted to David yet?
not yet. I wanted to get through this part
Okay.
first. I wanted to understand what I should be, how to communicate it.
All right. yeah.
Okay.
So the events should be submitted to David. That's the procedure we.
Oh, sure,
followed.
sure,
Yep, yep.
sure,
And he
but
reviews it.
that's, David, that's maybe, and part of this is me understanding, maybe I didn't say it more, I could have explained myself a little more. When we work together on this, you don't need as many words, but, but the real big thing is, we've been doing this for years. Okay, so I didn't think that was necessary. And I didn't want to burden you guys, because you guys have got lots on your plate.
I don't remember seeing any approvals in a while.
Well, it depends on what parcels they were done on in the past.
It was Sunny Meadows. is
Oh,
what-
okay.
So you wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
But now we're moving over, instead of in a big meadow area,
Yeah.
we have the advantage of a wooded walk. And those trails are 6 feet wide, recently blown out. And the reason we blew them out, David, and I understand what your concern might be, but those trails are just basically been created, and there's still rocks in there that need to be removed and stumps that need to be removed. So you need to, and there is I've not seen any erosion anywhere on the trail.
There's no rain either, so.
Well, but in the springtime, there was plenty of rain. You're right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
As you were trying to drill a hole into
Right.
partial concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say one more thing quickly. On a recent event at Red Wing Farm that I approved, where it was a professional photographer, and this was during the daytime,
Yep.
where some members of the public that were participating, I guess were being photographed, went on to an abutting private property, and something was sent to them, and they allegedly then made threats in return, in response to that. I mean, and that was bad enough during the day. Can you imagine if someone then goes on to an abutting property at night? Now, I know you would be assuring, saying, no, we would never let that happen. We're supervising.
So-
But you might not be able to control everything that's in the dark.
Sure, I understand that. So I recently have met a person that comes and does trail cams. Now, that's open turf. They can go anywhere they want to go, and, because we don't have a gate, we don't take tickets, and he trespassed on unknowing, because he's not familiar with the property lines. And so I went over to the property owner and apologized, and said it wouldn't happen again. And that's why my way of dealing with that is good neighbors, okay?
Okay. Peter? Yeah.
Can I just make a comment? I'll make it quick. In my vision, this is exactly what we want to do with our open space. Use it.
Thank you.
Yep.
And secondly, I understand, I've been listening carefully. Isn't it more of a liability question? Don't we need some feedback from town manager or our council? Like, what is the legal responsibility of the commission to, in the event something inappropriate happens? Because I don't understand that. What are we
I
approving?
think it's gonna be a problem because we're closed from dusk till dawn.
But that's our policy, and we can waive that.
We can't.
That's where I'm going.
But
I
we absorb
believe
the
so.
liability, though.
Right.
But that's to David's point, yeah, and I think it's something we need to think about, because.
Well, you've somewhat, Carl, I mean, I've looked at the guidelines, and the posted guidelines, and it talks about entering here is that you do it at your own risk. Somewhat covered,
Yeah.
okay? But we've got enough, I mean, you're dealing with kids, so we've got enough parents or older people. They all look young from my age, but, the older people that have responsibility. This is a unique thing. It's a club where they go out and do this all the time. So they network, and they know how to do this. They know how to walk at night, and I feel very comfortable about this.
Yeah.
And I've never met the person, but I'm familiar with Neshoba and a bunch of the other activities that they do, and they seem to be very well run.
Yeah. So I think we need to think about the liability part and maybe get a little clarity on that, but then maybe come up with some guidelines, because I'd like, we'd like these events to go to David, and he can handle them. He's got
Yep.
clear guidance, and he can, everything goes to him.
So maybe what we should do,
But just a second,
okay.
so that David can review it, David can make the decision, and if he gets something that's big enough, that's like, oh, there's gonna be 100 people coming to wherever, it's like, well, that one we need to talk
Oh,
about,
sure.
because that's a big one.
Sure.
But, when it's something like this, David should be able to make those decisions.
So,
About the two pending.
Well, I think he just said it's moot now.
well, the one for 2 nights from now, it might have moved anyhow, because it appears, I check the weather every 4 hours, but this is New England, and it was going to be cloudy for Thursday, and who knows? I'll tell you better on Sunday what Thursday was. But the reg for using our property is you do it on your own risk. Should cover most.
Yeah.
And that should be included in any dialogue between us and any leader, so they can
Right.
communicate to the families.
Well, but that's not really what the regulations say. The regulations don't say,
So
the regulations don't say close from dawn to dusk. Any use after
we have-
dusk is at your own
So,
risk.
John, but, excuse me, we're having the meeting here, sorry.
Yep.
So we have our regulations, we need to review the regulations, review what's allowed, and we'll do that. Right now, do you have anything open for events? You said that one's not gonna happen?
That one's not going to happen in Coolers. It'll happen in Sunny
Okay,
Meadow.
Yep.
But there isn't a request for December 4th, so it's down the road.
don't let it go too far.
And
Let's,
that's not a night walk. That's just in the field, telescopes, and
yeah, okay.
so nothing major.
Probably not a big deal, but, the sooner you get it to David, the quicker you can get it responded.
David, you'll have it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything
Okay.
else?
No, yeah. Yes, excuse me. Yeah. I'm confused by no walking on the buffer zone.
it's a sensitive area for the vernal pool. And, you know, this commission has been very concerned about buffer zones of vernal pools, you know, particularly with applicants, and has, wherever possible, required applicants to stay out of buffer zones. In this particular case, I think you know, ultimately, yeah, there may at some point be a short trail in this buffer zone. One doesn't know, but as a general rule, the commission wants to leave it as an area, an unaccessed area. I mean, there's going to be no formal rules saying that, but you know, I think the ultimate plan is to leave it undisturbed, to let it restore, maybe naturally, maybe you know, active restoration.
So in the Mass laws, there's none of that in the Mass laws that I can find.
So
It mentions clearing. You can't clear. I don't think we're doing or have done anything or plan to do that would be against any of the Mass laws, guides, I mean, in advice on wetlands. I mean, I won't even go in there in most cases because it's tick-fill. But Carl, you advised me it was okay to walk in the vernal pool this time of year because it's virtually dry. And I did go in there and walk around. I was careful because I wanted to survey in my own mind what the situation in there is with bittersweet and metal and trash. I'm glad to report there's very little trash in there. There are 3 barrels that I'm not exactly sure how we can extract them, but they're on the
house side, right?
Actually right on the outside of the blue line, but within the buffer zone. They're empty. They're not. There's no hazards, no material in those. Those barrels actually were used to move silage.
Yeah.
What do I know? I didn't even know how to spell that a week ago. So, so at some point in time, they're not sharp. So that's down the road. But I've been attempting to remove as much of the additional metal that we've come across as possible. To wit, I just got a metal detector. So I want to be able to go, now that the right field is cleared, I want to try to ground penetrate and detect any metal that might be there while it's disturbed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just cut 2 weeks ago, or?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So to supplement David's comment about the vernal pool protection area, we're trying to protect it and allow it to grow over time into a vernal pool upland area. It doesn't mean nobody can walk in there. It means, because I agree with him, I think at some point we can come up with a trail in there, and it could even be go see the vernal pool, follow this trail, and it's a highlight of that site. And I think that's
okay,
something.
Carl, you got me excited.
Yeah.
So I did do one thing. I mowed the perimeter of the field, but just on the perimeter, just to be able to see what was there. So where I would hope to put a ADA trail.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, and I didn't disturb.
Technically, it's an accessibility trail, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
I've learned that recently.
So I've got projects that in mind to do that has been there since John, you and I were working together. Basically, a little more fine. You just put the string up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a hazard. Okay, I think it's a hazard because it's not a bright string, because it's light. It's light. I like it better than the nylon rope that you had before, which I would given those posts maybe 2 weeks before it got blown over. But when it's dusk, you can't see those.
Well, people shouldn't be on the site at dusk, so, so that being said, the other thing that I think is can be put on the list of projects for that site would be to put a split rail fence there. And in 10 years, if the land has grown into being a vernal pool upland area inside the fence, maybe we take the fence out in 5 years or 10 years. So, there's a lot of possibilities there, but right
Yep.
now we needed to demarcate.
And one of the things we talked about was a native plant area down there. I kind of like soft lines as opposed to hard lines, but.
Yep. So I want to keep moving on here.
Okay.
I think these are all good ideas, and I think we can do that. I think you have one event that is not happening, and the other event is going to be, you're going to get the.
I'll get that out tomorrow or the day after.
That's a daytime event, I think you said.
It's a night viewing. It's stars, looking at the stars, so.
Okay. So you'd be okay with the same conditions?
Oh, yeah, we're not, I don't voluntarily go night walking. Been there, done it, there are alligators out there.
Okay.
I want to talk about fieldstone, okay?
Fieldstone, okay.
Because you had said to me a while back, no removal of stone. And we talked about the survey, the
Baseline survey.
Thank you very much, Bill. Baseline survey. I could not find fieldstone or stone anywhere in the Warren Poll BDR, okay? Plenty of stone, but they were talking about stone walls, stone steps. So I'm just hopeful that we can advance far enough on that baseline survey that there's only a window of time that the DPW could remove some of the stone and make it easier to mow.
Not this year. Not this year.
But
Sudbury
this
Valley
winter.
Sudbury Valley's told us, leave everything in place. Don't change anything.
To include fieldstone?
Yes. Yes.
Fieldstone's removed by everybody all the time. I find that mind-boggling, Carl.
That's what they
But
asked,
thank you. It's a fair exchange of words.
Yeah, that's what they said.
I'm going to ask you every time I come here, which isn't going to be that much longer.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good. Thank
John,
you.
I think this is going to be a learning curve. Because Dave has got to catch up on we're having different types of get-togethers out there, which we haven't normally had.
We haven't had much.
Of that on the sites lately. So I think it's going to be a learning curve till we're all on the same page.
Yep.
And you understand what we're looking for. You understand what maybe David needs to hear.
Tonight was
improve something.
an education for me. So, yes.
So one thing in particular, say like you blew the trails were blown. Well, in the past, we discussed that a couple of years ago, that we weren't going to blow any trails. So we have to figure out, at this point at that site, maybe it needs to be done to identify stones that are on the trail or hazards in the trail.
And there's still some metal out that I
Right.
tripped
So
over.
That's what I'm saying. It's a learning curve, and it's
Yep.
going to evolve into what we really expect
And-
down there. But I wanted to end with this. I was down there today. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. You come here and maybe it's a little pushback one way or another. But in the scheme of things, between yourself, the other people that are volunteering, and the DPW, the amount of work that's been done there is phenomenal. There's a pile of brush that the DPW dragged out that's as big as this room.
Well,
That would be a good night visit.
Thank you very much. And I hear you.
I think sometimes we get hung up on little issues.
Yep.
Really good point,
And the
Bill.
big picture is, you're down there every day, you're doing a great job. The people who come and help pull all the stuff out of the walls and off the trees and stuff, they don't get the recognition. And the DPW guys, too, they love it doing that work. They've done stuff at other sites that we've had that they don't get the recognition from all the time. But as a group, everybody's going for the same
DPW,
direction.
here's what I've learned, okay? DPW, they're phenomenal. And what you see is 100% of what DPW does. And you know what you're getting out of them? They have a vision. In each of the persons in DPW has their own version of a vision of what they want to do. So the nice part about a vision is it's all aligned. You don't have to draw and tell them, do this, do that, do this. They do it better than I could describe it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay?
And they got equipment and they.
And they got the right equipment. I want to talk about one thing, Warren Pole. It's out of my bailiwick, okay? We haven't cleared Warren Pole since we bought it. Is that correct? Have we mowed it since?
Well, there's one field that's been cut many times.
Oh, up in it, yeah, the apple field, but the main
meadow-
field.
No, the main meadow's a wet meadow, and there's not very much for woody. We've cut on the edges, and until we start to see a lot of woody stuff coming into the field, I don't know that we're gonna cut it much. We're also trying to get we're working with the Oxbow, trying to get a land management plan put together for that would tell us exactly what we should do there. It's a wet meadow, it's a different animal, and I wanna do the right thing there, so. Right now, it's doing fine. Actually, we've had native plants coming in. There's been invasives. The purple loosestrife came in like crazy this year, but other stuff has come in. A lot of goldenrod, a lot of Joe Pye weed, and a lot of different native plants have come in there, and it's actually doing quite well. It's doing really well.
Interesting.
We need to move on.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thanks.
Thank you.
Speaking of Warren Pole, we are working the CR still. I think it's actually, I'm not going to say anything. I jinx myself every time. We're still in progress on that, so still work in progress. Next, agents report. What do you have, David, on agents report?
So the select board has requested, again, comments on the proposed Chapter 40B project at 243 River Neck Road. I guess now this is another application. The first application was in the context of a LIP, Local Initiative Project, which is sort of a friendly AKA friendly 40B, where the applicant works with the town on doing the 40B. I gather that the select board said no, they weren't going to do that, so now it's back to a standard 40B project. So the select board is again requesting comments on that project. And
So my suggestion and proposal, if everyone is okay with it, is I sent a letter, David and I sent letters to the select board in April or March or April for the LIP that described our concerns with any kind of development on that property. And I will basically just put a new date on it and send it again, if that's
I
okay
think that's
with
fine.
everybody.
Same
I
concerns.
think that's fine.
You guys okay with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought the project was different. I thought that one building was gonna be sold,
So that's
and one building was coming up for an auction.
That's a good point, in that I should qualify it by saying I will send the same concerns in general, but we haven't seen any plans. We don't know what the detail is for this new
Anything, Chris?
new plan. So we
Can you-
don't know, but
Put out a plan.
in any kind of development on that site, we have concerns.
Just general
And-
concerns,
There's
not
drinking
specific
water
to that
adjacent
project.
to it.
Right.
That's a big concern
Exactly.
of
So no
conservation.
matter what you do there, it's a concern.
There's no septic system, I mean, there's no sewage system.
Right.
It's gonna be an on-site septic system, and you know how close it is to the wetlands,
Yeah.
to the well fields there.
Wellfield Zone 2, right?
Very sensitive environmental site.
Right.
Yeah,
Very
so
sensitive.
my point is, we have the exact same concern. I'll put a new date on it. I'll say we haven't seen any plan, updated plan, and other than that, it's still
Hard to
all
talk
the
about
same,
something
all
without
the
a
same
plan.
concerns, yeah. So, okay. What else?
Okay, so the commission probably remembers quite well at this point the Littleton Road parcel back there a few months ago, where
Right on Beaver Brook.
right on Beaver Brook, where the site was accessed and cleared without permission. A storage container was put there at that time. After issuance of an enforcement order, which required filing of an RDA for the work that was done. During that process, the owner voluntarily removed the storage container after getting a strong sense from the commission that he's probably going to be asked to remove it. So he did remove it at that time, but it's back in the last couple of weeks or so. It is, I don't know if it's the exact same one, but it is a storage container that's back on the site, again, without permission. So I need to know how the commission wants to deal with this.
Did we say that he couldn't have one on site, or it had to be so many feet from the vernal pool, or?
There was, in the negative determination of applicability, it was not addressed at all because it had been removed. So
But in our discussions, we made it clear that it should be removed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
can we ask, is his law, well, his not lawyer, but his engineer was Susan, wasn't it?
Susan.
It was
was his representative, yes.
Yeah, well, I guess either go to her, but she's probably moved on.
Yes.
She's probably
yes.
not under contract with him.
So I think the options for the commission at this point are ask him nicely to remove it, issue an enforcement order telling him to remove it, or ask him to come in and talk about it and say, maybe give him the sense that, well, maybe there are some conditions under which it could stay there, which would be a switch.
I still don't mind the idea of having him come in and talk to us. If you want to approach it as ask him to remove it, and/or do you want to come in and talk about it to us, to the commission? Something like that.
I like that. Like, we want to remove, but if you got to issue a question with that, you can come in and meet with us. I like that.
Yeah.
But just one shot, because I remember that offer being extended previously.
Yeah.
It dragged out for a long time.
We actually
Did.
probably need
Right.
to give
For a
a
long
very,
time.
a date very certain when we want that thing gone by.
Yeah, we have 2 meetings left. It's got to be one of those meetings
Okay.
in this calendar. year.
So, but the point, if he wants to come in and talk about it, what would be the point of that?
Just to understand, why does he have it there? What's his intention? Didn't you understand that we told you to get rid of it?
But I think he might take that as the slightest opening that he's going to be allowed to keep it there.
It's just going to drag it on.
And if there's no chance the commission is going to allow it to stay there, I think it should be
Good
told
point.
to remove it.
Good point.
I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I know I personally, there's no chance in my mind I'd want it there.
I don't know.
I
think everybody agrees, right?
I think in that case, the issue is, do you ask nicely? The commission respectfully requests that you remove that
Yeah.
by a such and such date, or issue an enforcement order,
Let's
which
start
he
with-
can appeal.
Let's start with the ask nicely. Let's start there. All right? No, I know you. We get the hammer.
Okay.
No.
So I'll give him a date
But because
of,
honey, they came with vinegar.
Let's start there.
Ask nice
But
once.
like one chance, nice.
like, remove it by, mid-December, or?
Oh,
I
give a
think-
week.
I think the end of November.
Okay,
What immediately?
okay,
By December 1st.
Yeah.
okay.
December 1st is the date.
Thanks. Say November 30th.
Okay.
What else? I know you have one more.
The certificate of compliance, or?
Nope. Brick Kiln.
Oh, Brick Hill. So yeah, finally got an RDA on that one. So a little bit after the fact, but that will be on the agenda for the November 26th meeting. So I think in that case, though, it's important to remember that again there are 2 parts to this issue. One is the after the fact filing of the RDA for what they originally wanted to do out there. And the second part of it is the restoration aspect, which, again, that I think should be done according to what Alex has talked about, file a restoration plan. And that was in the original enforcement order. Now, the property owner, actually his daughter, has indicated that they are talking to Norse Environmental about that.
Okay.
I think we can certainly ask on the progress.
Encouraging.
Yeah.
Glacial pace.
Every little bit is.
Part of the problem was a lack of funds, correct?
That's what they were saying. Yeah, for a while. I don't know if that's still an issue.
I have a lack of funds too. That just means they don't,
Well,
how do
you, what can you do if somebody doesn't have money?
Okay.
Guess you should be patient, which is what you've been.
At this point, we have an RDA filed, so I'm
All right.
happy to hear that. That's good. I just throw in, add that David and I met on the, right here with James from the town manager's office, that the town websites are undergoing some facelifting, and we're discussing the Concom website, and I'm actually pretty excited about how it might change going forward.
Yeah.
I think it'll be positive. More to come, but just give you a heads up that
think we
that's,
can do some
it's
really
probably weeks, if not months away, but I'm encouraged.
I think we can do some really good things with it.
Yeah. Things like event
Registration,
forms,
yes.
registration, all that kind of stuff. So do a lot better than, right now, you don't want to point anybody to the website. It's not very good.
Not easy to navigate.
No, and it's just not, yeah. CFC?
Yes, so have had a request for a certificate of compliance for this order of conditions on 6 Doral Drive. The only thing, I've done the inspection, everything's in compliance. The only thing that I'm still waiting for that I thought I would have by today is the as-built plan. So I recommend the commission approve the certificate of compliance to be released when I receive the as-built plan.
I'll take a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion from Chris.
Second.
And second from Mark. Any further discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
So it is good to see we are getting requests for certificates of compliance for some of these more recent projects.
Good to hear.
So that it's not someone else's problem 25 years down the road.
Last thing on our agenda is approving meeting minutes. So we have minutes in front of us, August 13th. Take a look at those. If you have any issues, did I hear somebody say there was was it on this one or the other one? Was there an issue?
Yeah, there's a wrong date.
Where?
On the September 10th, it says September 9th, that's all.
Oh.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right, so August 13th, we had Hunt Road, we had Assessor's Map, Russell Road. That seems like a long time ago.
It was.
August 13th was a while ago.
It was the one I had to do from the television showing.
That's why
and
yeah.
I kept getting interrupted and furious, and yeah, that took a while.
Report said 10 pages.
It was stupid long, too.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging in there.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes for August 13th. Any
I move to approve the minutes of August 13th, Mr. Chair.
motion from Chris? Second from John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Take a look at September 10th?
10.
Should be 10th, okay. With that correction.
I wasn't even here, so.
Look at that, absent.
I know.
Really?
What was I absent for? I've only missed like 2 meetings, so 17 years.
17 years? I move, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the minutes of September 10th, 2024.
Motion from Chris,
Second?
second from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have to abstain.
You abstain from Mark. Okay.
I move to adjourn.
And
Can I-
motion, motion passed.
Go ahead. Before we adjourn, I wanted to throw something up, if I may.
Okay, so the minutes were approved and motion passed,
Was subject to the correction.
subject to the correction of September 10th. Peter has a comment.
Just want to share with everybody, because I'm going to miss the next meeting, and this thing's going to move fast. But Tree Committee is working with Christine Clancy on that $75,000 that was approved at town meeting to do a tree and invasive survey. And Carl, I know you've had some discussions, probably with Christine at DPW, about maybe extending that study to do some sort of invasives work with an outside consultant at a couple of our conservation parcels. So if anyone wants, Carl, I'll look to you and we can talk offline how much this commission wants to dive in. But a scope of work will be developed over the next 3-4 weeks. And then we'll have consultant interviews and selection probably after the new year. So I'd like the commission has some interest in invasives. Just think about
Big interest, yeah.
how much you want to dive in, and we can certainly work
I know
offline
they're
and work through the
focused
commission.
on town properties, and we come under that. But I think they're looking at, like, along the streets and things
Yeah,
like
because
that.
it's a
But-
DPW, it's a public
Yeah.
tree
There's
thing.
also the Sudbury Valley SISMA, we can pull them in as well for some of the invasive stuff, so.
Right, and I think, I don't know if it's premature, but it seems to me there ought to be an invasives committee of people that do it, like John Ray and others who are interested.
Yep.
But we can talk about that another day.
Motion
thank
from
you.
Chris to adjourn.
Second.
Second from Peter. I heard Peter first. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Chelmsford Telemedia. Thank you, everybody.